Hello, Minakaja here, and welcome to my channel. In this video, I will be going over Codex entries that I have obtained in episodes 1 and 2 of my Let's Play from Orzammar and the Deep Roads. I will release another one once I've progressed a little further in the game, likely breaking it down by areas to keep from reading anything that doesn't pertain to where I'm at or may contain information that has yet to become relevant. If you enjoy this video, give it a like, hit that subscribe button, and make sure you turn on notifications so you don't miss other videos like this. Without further ado, let's get into it. In darkness eternal they searched, for those who had goaded them on, until at last they found their prize, their god, their betrayer, the sleeping dragon Dumont. Their taint twisted even the false god, and the whisperer awoke at last, in pain and horror, and led them to wreak havoc upon all the nations of the world. The first blight. Threnodies 8:7. The false dragon gods of the Tevinter Imperium lie buried deep within the earth, where they have been imprisoned since the Maker cast them down. No one knows what it is that drives the Darkspawn in their relentless search for the sleeping old gods. Perhaps it is instinct, as moss will fly into torch flames. Perhaps there is some remnant of desire for vengeance upon the ones who goaded the Magisters to assault heaven. Whatever the reason, when Darkspawn find one of these ancient dragons, it is immediately afflicted by the taint. It awakens twisted and corrupted and leads the Darkspawn in a full-scale invasion of the land. A blight. Deepstalker. A fool trusts his eyes, a wise man fears every rock is a deepstalker. Dwarven saying. Possibly the strangest of all the creatures found in the deep roads is the deepstalker. Tezpadam, as the dwarves call them, hunt in packs, generally by burrowing underground and then striking when their prey is in their midst. Stalkers come in several types. Spitters have venom glands and can spit secretions that slow or injure their prey. Jumpers hurl themselves at their targets, knocking them down and making the kill easier. The most common variety scares its prey, leaving the unfortunate victim helpless against the rest of the pack. Genlock. These are the most common darkspawn in the underground. Stocky and tough, Genlocks are notoriously difficult to kill, even by magic. Alphas. In any group of Genlocks, there is usually one who is dominant. As the tallest, strongest, and smartest of their kind, alphas serve as a sort of commander, directing or bullying the others in combat. Ghoul. What the blight does not destroy, it corrupts. Any creature infected with the Darkspawn taint that does not have the good fortune to die outright becomes a ghoul, a twisted shadow of itself. The name originally comes from men, whether human, dwarven, or elven, who became tainted, usually while being held as a captive food source by the Darkspawn. They would turn cannibal, preying on other captives, slaves to the will of the archdemon, driven mad by pain. During a blight, the corruption of the Darkspawn spreads through the wilder areas of Thedas and infects the animals found there. This produces grotesque, enraged bears called bearscarn, as well as blight wolves. Fortunately, ghouls rarely survive their corruption for long. Giant spider. Giant spiders tend to appear in old ruins and other places where the veil has become thin because of magical disturbances or a great number of deaths. In such places, spirits and demons pass into the world of the living and attempt to take control over living beings. Spiders among them. Not all scholars accept this explanation for the presence of these beasts. However, some claim that the thinning veil allows magic to leak from the Fade, tainting such creatures as these spiders to transform into larger and more potent creatures than they ever would have become naturally. While such spiders are known to possess powerful poisons and the ability to fling their webs at opponents in combat, studies of them have been few and the full range of their abilities are unknown. Culture and history. The castes. Visitors to Orzammar should keep in mind that the hierarchies of Dwarven society are much more complex than our own. It is easy to gravely insult a man simply by mistaking his position. Since this can lead to unnecessary loss of life and limbs, I will attempt to mitigate the danger for my fellow travelers. The society of Orzammar is divided into nobles, warriors, smiths, artisans, miners, merchants, and servants. Now, you are undoubtedly saying to yourself, we have all those divisions among our own people. This is a dangerous misconception. Certainly we do have nobility, artisans, merchants, and these positions are largely inherited from our parents. However, the younger children of noblemen often choose to be artisans or soldiers. The sons of merchants may join the army or become servants or apprentice themselves to a craftsman. This is all freely chosen, limited perhaps by the circumstances of birth, but still chosen. What is a matter of choice for most human folk is dictated entirely by birth for dwarves. No one may become a smith who is not born to smith caste parents. A servant who marries a noblewoman will never be a noble himself, and although his daughters would be nobles, his sons would be servants, for daughters inherit the caste of their mothers, while sons inherit the caste of their fathers. From In Pursuit of Knowledge, The Travels of a Chantry Scholar by Brother Genetivi. Life in Orzammar. The dwarfs of Orzammar are quite unlike those found in most human cities. Although Orzammar derives its vast wealth from trade with human kingdoms, all dwarfs who come to the surface to trade are stripped of their position in society. Dwarven merchants are so ubiquitous in human cities that many people labor under the impression that all dwarves are merchants or that their whole race worships coin and trade. But these surface dwarves are atypical creatures, the ones willing to give up all ties to their kin and sacrifice their rank in order to conduct business. Below ground, the dwarves are a people obsessed with honor, their own and that of their family. Most nobles incorporate chainmail even into formal gowns because slights and insults often turn deadly. They are a people who revere excellence and strive to achieve it in all things. Even members of the servant caste have been elevated to paragons, usually posthumously, in recognition of remarkable service. From In Pursuit of Knowledge, The Travels of a Chantry Scholar by Brother Genetivi. Deep Roads. There isn't a dwarf alive who remembers the deep roads as they once were. They were the network of tunnels that joined the Taigs together. To be honest, it isn't even right to give them such a simple term as tunnels. They were works of art, with centuries of planning demonstrated in the geometry of their walls, with the statues of the paragons that watch over travelers, with the flow of lava that keeps the deep roads lit and warm. The cloud gazers up on the surface talk of the imperial highway built by the magisters of old, a raised walkway that crossed thousands of miles, something that could only have been built by magic. Perhaps it is comparable to the deep roads, although we dwarves didn't need magic. I suppose it doesn't matter anymore. The Darkspawn rule the deep roads now. When Orzammar sealed off the entrances to the deep roads, abandoning everything that lay out there, we handed over the kingdom that was to those black bastards forever. To think that there are Genlocks crawling over Bonamar now, tearing down our statues and defiling our greatest works. Corruption covers everything we built out there. Every dwarf who goes out and comes back says that it gets worse with each passing year. The foulness spreads a little further. And the cloud gazers think the Darkspawn are gone just because they aren't spilling out onto the surface? One day, when Orzammar is gone for good, they'll find out differently. Those Darkspawn won't have anywhere else to go but up, and they'll do it. The surface folk will have themselves a blight that will never end. Transcript of a conversation with a member of the Dwarven mining caste, 890 Blessed. The City of Orzammar. The dwarves are lauded for their craftsmanship, and the city of Orzammar is one of their finest works. Orzammar lies at the heart of the Frostback Mountains, deep underground. The city arcs outward from the royal palace, which is built around a natural lava vent, continually fountaining liquid rock, which both lights and heats the entire cavern. The topmost tier of Orzammar is home to the noble caste, with their palaces fanning out in both directions from the court of the king, as well as the Shaperate, which serves as a repository for all dwarven knowledge. The lower tier is the commons, where the merchant caste holds sway, and where the finest works of Orzammar's craftsmen are for sale. In the center of the river of lava, connected to the commons by a causeway, are the Proving Grounds, a sacred arena where the dwarves, by ancient tradition, settled their disputes. On one side of the fiery river are the ruins of old dwarven palaces, fallen into disrepair, which the locals call Dust Town, now home to the city's casteless. On the other side of the river are the Deep Roads, which once joined the sprawling dwarven empire together, but now, after centuries of Darkspawn incursions, are largely sealed off. Nearly all knowledge of this network of underground passages has been lost, even to its builders. From In Pursuit of Knowledge, The Travels of a Chantry Scholar by Brother Genetivi. House aeducan, Shield of Orzammar. The Assembly has never named a paragon with so little disagreement as there was for Paragon aeducan. No naysayers, only a single abstention. His worthiness was unquestionable, his favor with the ancestors clear. But family rumor says that the man himself was deeply troubled, prone to fits of melancholy and self-doubt. Never satisfied with his great achievement in protecting Orzammar, he died cursing that he had not managed to save the outlying Taigs. Before he rose to Paragon, he was of little note. The memories tell us that he never entered a single proving, never sought to elevate his place among the warrior caste. He spent most of his years prior to the first blight fighting skirmishes in the deep roads, keeping them free from surface bandits, content to live quietly with his wife and daughters. When the blight began, it caught Orzammar in the midst of a vicious inter-house war. Most of the warrior caste was caught up in the feuding, for as word of attacks poured in, each great house demanded that the army be sent to defend their taigs, and no house would agree to sacrifice their own holdings for the safety of any other. The assembly was so utterly tied up with the infighting that the darkspawn spread unchecked to the gates of Orzammar herself. In the chaos, aeducan grudgingly took command of the armies. He enlisted the aid of the mining caste to collapse overrun passages, called upon the smith caste to supply them with arms, and bypassed the assembly and the nobles entirely. With his leadership, Orzammar was saved from annihilation. For his insubordination, he was made paragon, yet he always considered it a defeat. From A History of Aeducan, Paragon, King, Peacemaker by scholar Gertek. Orzammar politics. As dangerous as it is to mistake a dwarf's caste, it is far more deadly to mistake his alliances among the noble houses of Orzammar. Everyone in the city is allied with someone, whether by blood or by word. The nobles do not engage directly in commerce themselves, as that is the domain of the merchant caste, but they do serve as patrons. They invest in shops or in artisans' work, and in turn reap a share of the profits as well as a measure of credit. Merchants and warriors alike benefit from the service of a prestigious patron. The relative power of each house is ever-changing. It is usually safe to assume that whichever noble house holds the throne is at the top of the heap, but below that, things grow into a tangled mess. Houses ally with one another by marriage. They earn rank and prestige when combatants loyal to them, or from their own bloodlines when provings. They earn it when artisans they patronize become sought after or well regarded, or when the merchants they invest in become successful. The degree of power that these achievements confer is so murky, even to the dwarves, that it isn't unusual for nobles to challenge each another to provings over whose smith forges better belt buckles or whose servant have the best manners. Nor is it out of the ordinary to find two merchants arguing over whose noble patron has won the most acclaim, for the rank of the patron is the rank of the client. Nowhere is this more apparent than in the assembly, where the deshers, representatives of each noble house, meet. Although the king technically rules Orzammar, kings are elected by the assembly, and so each king must work constantly to maintain the support of the deshers. Kings who prove unpopular find their heirs deemed unacceptable to inherit the throne. Power then passes to another house. From In Pursuit of Knowledge, The Travels of a Chantry Scholar by Brother Genetivi. The Proving. Valos Atretum. In the 23rd year of the reign of King Regnan Aeducan, an old man of the servant caste was accused of stealing a sapphire ring from his employer, Lord Dace. The servant was stripped of his position, he and his family thrown to the streets, and soon after the servant died. The son of the disgraced servant challenged Lord Dace to a proving, declaring that his father had been the victim of a cruel injustice, and the ancestors would bear him witness. Lord Dace had no choice but to accept. On the sacred stone of the proving ground the nobleman faced the servant boy. Lord Dace carried a sword crafted for his own hand, and was clad in his great-grandfather's armor. The servant boy had neither armor nor weapon. When the battle began, the boy fought like a whole pack of angry deep-stalkers, flinging himself upon the startled lord, wrenching the sword from his hand, and prying at his armor with bare fingers. The boy knocked Lord Dace to the ground, and beat him until the lord begged for mercy. The boy and his family were reinstated to their place in the Dace household, and the virtue of the boy's father was not questioned again. The ancestors had spoken, and no one would question their word, as told by Shaper Vortag. Dwarven Faith. We are the children of the stone. She supports us, shelters us, offers us the most priceless gifts of the earth. The worthy return to her embrace in death, becoming ancestors. The unworthy are cast out, unable to rest, that their failings may not weaken the stone. So it has been since the earliest memories. We live by the stone, guided by the ancestors who speak with the voice of the provings, and whose memories the Shaper keeps forever in lyrium. We do not accept the empty promises of heaven as the wild elves do, or vie for the favors of absent gods. Instead, we follow in the footsteps of our paragons. the greatest of our ancestors, warriors, craftsmen, leaders, the greatest examples of lives spent in service to our fellow dwarves. Our paragons joined with the stone in life, and now stand watch at our gate, ushering in those surfacers privileged to visit our city. We know there is no greater honor to hope for, no better reward for an exceptional life. As told by Shaper Sisbor. Orzammar History, Chapter 1. The memories tell us that our kingdom once reached far beneath the mountains, and that the Taigs were almost beyond counting. Kal Shirak was the capital then, home to all the noble houses, and Orzammar was simply the home of the miner and smith castes. It was with the Tevinter Imperium that things changed. Paragon Garel moved to the seat of power to Orzammar to more closely oversee the trade that began with the surface. It seemed that our people were entering a new age of prosperity. The memories hold no explanation for the coming of the Darkspawn, only questions. At first, there were rumors, noises in the deep roads, a lost traveler here and there. The warrior caste sent men to patrol the road and thought the matter settled. We did not know that while we searched for them, they were engaged in a search of their own. Sleeping deep in the stone itself was the archdemon. They found him and awakened him, and the blight began. The Darkspawn poured out of the deep roads like smoke then, and the warrior caste struggled to hold them back. Countless Taigs were lost in that first blight, but, as ever, in the worst moments of our need, a paragon arose. Paragon aeducan led the defenses of Orzammar, and the Dark Horde was beaten back. The cost of victory, however, was great. Much of the deep roads were sealed off to hold back the Darkspawn, cutting off Taigs and even whole cities forever. Orzammar is a kingdom, as told by Shaper Sisbor. Orzammar History, Chapter 2. We were losing the war against the Darkspawn, slowly, a few men at a time, but losing all the same. The warrior caste was dwindling with each generation as more able-bodied men perished in their prime without fathering sons. With each generation, more of the deep road had to be sealed, more Taigs lost forever. The kings of Orzammar watched and wondered how long it would be until nothing remained of our people but the memories. And then Paragon Caridin rose from the smith caste with a new weapon, golems, giant soldiers of living stone and metal. Each one was an army. With the Paragon's golems, we began to retake the lands we had lost. For a while, there was hope that victory, final victory, was coming. But at the height of the war, Paragon Caridin disappeared, and with him the means to make golems. Several forays were made into the deep roads to search for the Paragon, but nothing was ever found. Over time, the golems we had were damaged beyond repair, and we began our slide, once again, towards extinction. Orzammar is a kingdom, as told by Shaper Sisbor. The Grey Wardens. The first blight had already raged for 90 years. The world was in chaos. A god had risen, twisted and corrupted. The remaining gods of Tevinter were silent, withdrawn. What writing we have recovered from those times is filled with despair, for everyone believed, from the greatest archons to the lowliest slaves, that the world was coming to an end. At Weishaupt Fortress in the desolate Andefels, a meeting transpired. Soldiers of the Imperium, seasoned veterans who had known nothing their entire lifetimes except hopeless war, came together. When they left Weishaupt, they had renounced their oaths to the Imperium. They were soldiers no longer. They were the Grey Wardens. The Wardens began an aggressive campaign against the Blight, striking back against the Darkspawn, reclaiming lands given up for lost. The Blight was far from over, but their victories brought notice, and soon they received aid from every nation in Thedas. They grew in number as well as reputation. Finally, in the year 992 of the Tevinter Imperium, upon the Silent Plains, they met the archdemon Dumont in battle. A third of all the armies of northern Thedas were lost to the fighting, but Dumont fell and the Darkspawn fled back underground. Even that was not the end. The Imperium once revered 7 gods: Dumont, Zazakel, Toth, Andorral, Razakael, Lusican, and Erthemiel. 4 have risen as archdemons. The Grey Wardens have kept watch through the ages, well aware that peace is fleeting and that their war continues until the last of the dragon gods is gone. From Ferelden Folklore and History by Sister Petrine, Chantry Scholar. Darkspawn. The Surfacers claim that the first Darkspawn fell from heaven. They spin tales of magic and sin, but the Children of the Stone know better. The darkspawn rose up out of the earth, for it was in the deep roads they first appeared, creatures in our own likeness, armed and armored, but with no more intelligence than Tezpidam, bestial and savage. At first they were few, easily hunted and slain by our warriors, but in the recesses of the deep roads they grew in numbers and in courage. Our distant Tigers came under attack, and now it was the army, not a few warriors, being sent to deal with the creatures. Victories still came easily, though, and we thought the threat would soon be over. We were wrong, as told by Shaper Sisbor. The Blights. My dear Anika, I would not worry about the assembly. Let the nobles sit together and argue over whose house owns the grandest Tig. It keeps them from panicking, which they would surely do otherwise, and prevents them from making a greater nuisance of themselves. War is the business of warriors. I would say that the enemy's strategy seems to be changing, but they never appeared to have a strategy before, beyond destroying everything in their path. For weeks their numbers appeared to be dwindling. There was talk that perhaps we were getting close to wiping them out. We could not have been more wrong, for today we came upon the body of their main force. I cannot give words to it, Anika. I have never before seen so much death in one place. There were darkspawn beyond counting, and at the heart of the throng, a great beast, as tall as the palace of Orzammar, with breath of fire. A paragon of darkspawn, perhaps, for they seemed to pay it deference. They were leaving, marching towards the mine shafts which laid to the surface, but I knew when I beheld them that once they had devoured what lies above us, they will be back. From the letters of Paragon aeducan. Characters. Balin aeducan. Time is something you may not have much left of. Third of King Indran's children, Balin has always been considered the last and least of his family. Trion was the undisputed heir apparent from the moment of his birth, and Mina was not only the most accomplished, but also their father's clear favorite. Balin's most notable trait was his ability to stay out of trouble. He murdered Trion and framed Mina, eliminating both his rivals in one stroke. Duncan. Men and women from every race, warriors and mages, barbarians and kings, the Grey Wardens sacrificed everything to stem the tide of darkness, and prevailed. Like many others, Duncan gave up his family name when he joined the ranks of the Wardens, a symbolic gesture of cutting ties. He may say this was a convenience in his case, however. His mother was from the Anderfells, his father from Tevinter. His childhood was spent in the Free Marches and Orlais. His people were everywhere, and his homeland was nowhere. He was given the almost impossible task of leading the Wardens in Ferelden, a kingdom that had thrown the Order out 200 years earlier. Facing local suspicion and hostility, he set about finding recruits. King Indran aeducan. Denial of the traditions of our people does not qualify as political technicality. Indran of House Aeducan traces his ancestry back to the Paragon aeducan, the greatest warrior of Orzammar's history, who beat back the Darkspawn hordes in the First Blight. The second son of King Ansgar aeducan, he became heir after his elder brother died in approving. The most respected king in 4 generations, he restored contact with Kal Shirak, the only other remaining city of the once vast Dwarven Empire, which had been lost during the First Blight. Lord Pyral Harrowmont. No one is born with rights to the throne. The sitting king may recommend a successor, but the assembly ultimately decides who will rule. House Harrowmont is one of the oldest noble houses, as old as Orzammar itself. Indran's most trusted advisor, Harrowmont, is well known for being an able administrator and the author of many compromises in the ever-warring assembly. Books and songs. Trion's Journal. 21 for Ventus. Noticed Gorham running around trying to get pieces of my sibling's ceremonial armor ready for the feast. Stopped him and asked him how preparations were going. He mentioned that one of the bracers had a spot of tarnish on it. Was quite impressed at his dedication. He's most loyal to our family. 23 for Ventus. Was on way to discuss the treaty with father when came across a messenger waiting in the hall. On being asked why he was loitering about the royal palace, he mumbled something about having a gift for the new commander, and asked me, begged almost, to pass along some object or other to my sibling. Me, the heir to the throne of Orzammar, does not run errands for a messenger. Must have been new on the job. Had him thrown out, however, still reeling from the gall of it. Learned later that Balin had told Messenger the quickest way to get things to our sibling was through me, and had made him wait until I came by. So unseemly for a prince of Orzammar to play such tricks. He needs to grow up and understand that as royalty, he has responsibilities. 24 for Ventus. Found Balin's little playmate, again, lurking about the corridors outside his bedroom this morning. Must have been trying to steal something, or already had. Bosom seemed fuller than most decent ladies. Some jewels hidden in the bodice? Anyway, pretended not to see her. Would have been awkward otherwise. Wish Balin would keep her confined to his room, if he must have her around. Little brother is too concerned with fun and pleasure and not serious enough about his duties as prince. Must talk to him about discipline when have time. Unfortunately, much too busy with the many tasks father has laid upon my shoulders. 26 for Ventus. Remember to send small token of gratitude to Jaelia Helmi. Alliance between Helmi and aeducan must be kept strong. Lady Jaelia will of course accept proposal of marriage, since we'll be king sooner or later, but never hurts to be polite and keep the lady happy. Hear that there are some surfacers selling silks. Maybe we'll send second out for something nice. Jaelia's favorite color, turquoise. 28 for Ventus. Heard about there being provings held in our siblings' honor. They did not have provings for me at my first commission, and I'm the heir. What is going on? Must go watch these provings. Make presence felt. Orzammar must not forget that I am to be her next king. From the Journal of Trian aeducan. A letter from Rika. My dearest Prince Balin, you are too kind to me. I am a small and insignificant thing, and I do not deserve your attention, but your willingness to tolerate my presence shows you to be a prince among men. I cannot thank you enough for the beautiful necklace you presented to me. I will cherish it always, and I promise I will wear it at our next meeting. I know my gratitude means nothing to you, but I must say again, thank you. I will always be your humble and devoted servant. Yours truly, R. Alright guys, that is all I have for today's video. If you liked it, give it a like, hit that subscribe button, and make sure you turn on notifications so you don't miss other videos like this. And with that, I will see you all next time.